The DMV should tell all of us, including the motorcyclists, about underinsured motorist coverage, which you and I spoke about briefly. And that's a type of insurance that if somebody hits you doesn't have insurance, your insurance pays for your damages just like those people had insurance. 25% of all the drivers on California's highways don't carry insurance. I had a guy, Steve, he was down in, right down here. Car makes a left turn in front of him, takes out his Harley, fractures his hip, fractures his arm, puts him out of work for 6 months. His Harley turned into a toast pancake. It was flaming in the streets, literally, burned out. He didn't get a penny because he didn't have underinsured motorist coverage and the person who hit him didn't have insurance. So he wound up with $50,000 in hospital bills and no way to pay him. He lost 6 months worth of work and he's going to be walking with a limp. And because he didn't have underinsured motorist coverage and they didn't have insurance, he was unable to get anything to help him pay his bills. So I think it would be real important to remind all of us about the uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And finally, I think the DMV should just remind car drivers that motorcyclists have the same damn rights to use the road as they do. Because I'm tired as a motorcyclist of feeling like a second-class citizen. And I'm tired as a lawyer of hearing people think that they have more power because they have more steel. And that gives them a greater right to control that roadway at the expense of my brothers and sisters who ride motorcycles. Because when we get into court, they learn real quick that the people riding the bike had the exact same rights that they had when they were driving that piece of steel. What happens in the city, unfortunately, is that people who drive cars can often be morons. And that's a nice way to put it. I drive a car, I try not to be a moron. We see a tremendous amount of dooring. We see it a lot on bicycles because bicycles share that side portion more than motorcycles do between cars and between parked cars. We have treated motorcyclists as clients who have lost their spleens, who have had their shoulders torn off, basically, and have sustained severe lacerations of their fingers and their feet when doors have been opened into them. In San Francisco and throughout California, it is illegal to open your door unless you have checked to see that it is clear to do so. So motorists who open their doors into motorcycles are presumed to be negligent. The big thing that always comes down is how far was the door open. If the door was open and the bike goes into it, it's the bike's fault. So it's always a big determination of how far is that door open. The other item that comes up is, we talked about lane splitting earlier. This is why you don't lane split on the right. And you lane split between two lanes of cars rather than passing on the right. In cases where doors are opened, we always get the defense that the motorcycle was making an illegal passing maneuver on the right. And they do that to try to reduce their fault for the accident and try to reduce the amount of compensation the motorcycle would be entitled to. So door opening is a common occurrence. I'd go out on the bike and I'd stay out on the bike with just a sleeping bag and a piece of tarp to make a lean-to off the side of the bike. I've ridden my bike through Canada, up through Prince Edward Island, Brunswick, Nova Scotia, up through, all up in there, through Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. And I rode my bike from Connecticut down to Florida, actually from Maine to Florida, Florida to Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara all the way up into Oregon. So I tried to do the four corners, but I had a slight problem that Scotty, when he was over at Bavarian, bailed me out on. But I'd say two of the most interesting repairs I had to do is I blew a front fork seal in Charlotte, North Carolina once, because they have these cobblestones down there that just devoured a seal. And I had the rest of the states to go. So one night I pulled into the BMW dealer in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I bought a seal, and I had a climber book with me on how to fix this sucker. and I camped in their parking lot because I figured if I screwed it up, at least the bike would be there the next day so that they could haul it in and do it, but I was trying to save some money. And I used to use a book light, you know, that you read with when I'd travel, because it was cool. You could put it on the tank bag and it would be up and it would illuminate your maps. So I had the book light on my jacket, and I was using that in the middle of the dark to try to do this fork change. And I had to take all the forks apart and rebuild the forks and the fork seal and get the right amount of fluid in, put it all back together, and then I crashed, and the next morning I got up and the mechanics came back and they were like, right on, you did it. So that was an interesting one, but I think the weirdest one was the K100 I used to have had a fuel injection system, and it needed to be under pressure, and it had a welded aluminum fuel line in the tank, and there was a crack where the weld was, so it lost pressure. So I tried a number of things, JB Weld, bubble gum, because I just was losing fuel going through the mountains in Arizona. And there was a BMW dealer, yeah, like 300 miles away, 5 rattlesnakes and whatever else. And I always carry a small hacksaw blade with me in my toolkit. So what I had to do was drain the gas into something else so I could put it back in later on. And I had to take the gas cover, you know, the cap off, and get my hand in there with this little hacksaw blade and hacksaw off right in front of the break in the weld and run a piece of fuel line to bypass it. And then I had to get all the shavings out of the damn tank because otherwise they'd get into the engine and blow the engine. So I had to take the thing and hold it upside down and like dry it out and then blow it out and then wash it out and then put it all back together, get the gas in and move on. That was about a 5-hour repair job in the middle of nowhere in the heat of the desert. So I'd say those two are my ugliest repairs. I mean, I've done some inner city repairs too, but those two were the worst because you knew if you didn't get it fixed, you weren't going anywhere. What I'd like to say is that be safe. I mean, be safe. We don't want your business. You know what I mean? We do want it if it happens, but we don't want it to happen to you to get your business. We want you to be careful. Please, you know, practice safety first, and then if you need to, come to see us if somebody else gets in front of you. But it's unfortunate, but we have to take responsibility for the other idiots that are out there. Because I'll tell you, you can come to me and I may be able to do a great job for you and win your case, but I can't put you back together again. And sometimes nobody can. So be real safe out there. We ride some great bikes that have a lot of speed, and just be real careful. I've seen too many lives change like that. So safety first, and then, you know, come to us second. Thanks.